Hello and welcome to episode 2 of State of the Art. This episode we're going to be doing the first real chapter in Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, and when I say that I mean the chapter 0 is kind of the prologue to the game, and that's what we went through last time. And the gameplay changes not too significantly, but there's a lot more added to it once you have your new body, which is what you see in the title screen here. This is what your character's going to look like, what Raiden's going to look like when we load our game. So, this starts off with a cutscene that is one of those cutscenes that I kind of had a revelation. I think Michael Bay should probably start looking at making movies as opposed... making video games as opposed to movies. Considering his style of action first, content later is kind of appropriate for the platform in a lot of cases. I'm just going to adjust my volume real quickly. Alright. And so here we have Raiden doing the typical Metal Gear intro insertion thing, where you fly in at high speed or motorboat in at high speed or whatever it is. This time it's over an ocean in a stealth drone type thing. And here we get our first real introduction to... Adjusting the volume again, sorry.
How does it feel?
Here we get our first real introduction to the character cast. So we've got Maverick Incorporated is the PMC that you work for, although you don't consider yourselves a PMC. And you are going after someone here. It's kind of weird. The first chapter doesn't really fit into the narrative so much. It's kind of more to introduce some of the additional antagonists and kind of give you an introduction to the game. So here they're actually telling you a little bit about gameplay masked in game lore. The game is basically telling you that you can slice people open to gain health, and you can also collect their left arms. They make it sound like it's a general thing, but the left arms are actually, or the left hands are actually very specific left hands that you have to collect. You'll see them in your augmented reality to slice them off for bonuses. I believe this is used for the unlock system for Raiden's wigs, which are the basically the cheap items in the game. So, like, if you have one of them, it gives you unlimited slicing capability. One of them gives you unlimited health, and I think there's a third one that I'm not sure exactly what it gives you, but I haven't actually unlocked it myself yet. So, one of the details I like in their little props department here is the coffee cup there in the lower right-hand corner has a little question mark, and also if you look at it from one angle, it would be an exclamation point as well. It's kind of a throwback to the alert mentality from the Metal Gear series, where if you get near an enemy and they see you, you'll see a little exclamation point on their head. It's been in the series since the very beginning, even the 2D ones, and it's fun that they actually brought it into the 3D because it reads really well. One of the things I actually liked about Metal Gear Solid 2 is you could actually shoot those above people's heads, and it would really confuse the enemies. They only appear for like a moment, so it's really hard to do, but it's kind of funny. It makes the person wonder what they were thinking. So we've got so we're going after these guys because their arms suppliers are related to Desperado, which are the people that I'm avenging against, or rather revenging against. And here we learn that Sam's full name is Jetstream Sam, which even Raiden thinks is cheesy, which is saying quite a bit. So what we're gonna do once the game starts in earnest is I'm gonna kind of run around the main area. The first level here is actually also the demo for the game that was released. The demo, I think it was used in a few different places. I forget where it was originally shown, but it's the demo that you played if you downloaded the demo from PSN or Xbox, or if you got the demo early through the Zone of the Enders HD collection, where it was included. And as such, the first area of this game also has to function as a tutorial / get to know the game, even though there's already been a previous level that kind of told you some of the basic mechanics, because they couldn't assume that you had played that previous level. They did have a couple training sequences that you could go through in the demo, but this still has to introduce the player in case they choose to skip those tutorials or just don't pay attention to what's going on. Also, there's a lot of movement that they don't actually tell you about in the tutorials for the demo. And so this first area is really just designed to trap you until you figure out how do you get out. So, so this is the first area. As I was talking about, there's this safe area where I cannot actually escape this unless I learn how to do the wall run. Like, I could do jumping, but I can't double jump. So, and that's not entirely true. You can actually walk up these stairs and get out. And so the thing is, the first time you play this, you're already in a cutting mood. You've learned that you can cut pretty much anything, and so you can really play around with this stuff, and there's a lot of things to cut in this first area just to kind of show off the tech. So one of the things I want to show is video games aren't perfect, and they have to cheat a lot. And I've shown some cutting on the previous video, but I want to show how this stuff works. So there's a bridge up here, and you can actually collapse it. And the way it works is the bridge itself can't be cut. Like, the geometry up there is not something that I can cut. I'll prove that to you on the other bridge on the far corner of the map there. I'm going to destroy this one, and I'm going to leave that one standing so I can do some more analysis. But if I cut here, you'll see, if I just cut it, it looks right. Like, I cut, and you'll see that the bridge fell down, and you're like, oh wow, the bridge fell down, that's really cool. But if you actually watch it, what's happening here is there's nothing really fancy going on with physics. They're literally just replacing that with broken geometry. So if I just hit this, it just splits up and falls. And that's all it does. And like, the cutting here is incredibly accurate, but the splitting is all pre-baked. It just, they just had it's just like a Gibbon collide type thing, if we're going to use Unity terms, or my terms at least. And they just basically replace it with a fractured version of the model that then quickly disappears. But it provides the illusion quite well when you're not paying attention to it. Like, you're like, oh yeah, the top came down, that makes sense. Even though it doesn't really work the way that you'd expect. So let's see. So another thing you can learn is some of the limitations and features. So if I cut this barrel, I'm going to do a slow time cut. You can see that there's actually interior geometry here. The barrel's hollow. And so their cutting system allows for that, which is really cool. And they use it some places to actually create some really cool, detailed slicing for cool geometry. Like, there's a turbine later that kind of you can see the actual intake geometry inside there. I thought it was really cool that they did that. This also shows that these guys aren't monsters. So there is a cat here, and there is absolutely no way you can cut it. It is one of the few things in the game you can't cut. Cats are just too wily for you to cut. And it's because, you know, why would you be cutting a cat? And of course, the question is, why would I know this? It's because you tend to cut everything when you have a game with a sword. And so they don't want to harm animals and stuff, but you certainly is a violent game otherwise. But there's a difference between violence against something that can't really attack back and violence against something that can. Also, they kind of, even though they don't hide away from the violence aspect. In the next cutscene, you'll see that. In the old days, like in the 80s, you'd use robots as a way to get away from violence. Like, if you remember Ninja Turtles, the Foot Clan was robotic in the cartoon version of the series. It was not robotic in the original comic book. But they did robots because it meant that you could have them cut into pieces and it wouldn't bother anyone. And this game kind of uses the same cyborg mentality. Also, there's another really good example. How about an example from Konami themselves? There was a game, Contra. It's a side-scrolling shooter. If you're old school, you probably remember it. I really like the game. If you haven't heard of it, it's really fun. Oh, see, I just cut off my staircase there. But basically, Contra, in America, it was you versus a whole bunch of robots and some like alien stuff at the end. And in the European version, they actually first of all, the game was called Gryzor in Europe, and the only thing they changed was they made the main character a robot as well, because evidently it was too violent for even the main character to die in that game under European standards at the time. And so you can see that robots are a good excuse. Now, as I said, this game doesn't actually use them as an excuse. It mentions a lot that these guys are real people, and they even have places in the game where they try to be emotionally taxing on it. Nothing ever hits home as hard as anything that happens in, say, Last of Us or anything. But it does. They don't shy away from the topic, which I think is interesting. So you can cut this area up a lot, and actually you can see that once I've cut all these things that that it's kind of hard to get out of here. I can jump up here, but I can't actually jump high enough to get out. And this is where you need to use the ninja run. And it actually tells you that in the combat tutorial here. So that's kind of how they tell you how to get out of that area. As I said, I left that bridge so you can play around with it. So there's some enemies here. I'm going to be fighting them, and I'm going to get my ass kicked the first time, just to kind of show you some of the combat system mechanics and show you some of the details that they do in the combat. So let's go ahead and do that. They're using stealth camo, but they turn it off when they come in. I guess I have too good a vision or something. I don't know. So one of the things about this game is when you're running around, you get hit. It's a pretty standard game. These guys can block and they can counter. And if you notice, when you get hit, there's a very slight pause. It's actually longer the more damage you take. But the game actually slows down time for an instant when you get hit. It's part of, I think it was, I can't think of the last name, Tim something, from Kotaku, actually. He did an article at some point about crunchy gameplay, and this is I think what they're talking about is kind of having pausing and stuff. The pausing also is more dramatic, as I said, as you take greater damage, and part of the reason, part of the reason that all right. So where was I? So part of the reason for the crunchiness is actually to give you an opportunity to react. It gives you a little bit more of a moment to think. I'll show you in a more dramatic example when you get knocked around by bigger enemies. So the combat is you've got horizontal, you've got basically light attacks on the left on the square button or X if you're on Xbox, and heavy attacks on triangle or Y if you're on Xbox. And you can kind of use those in combinations, and depending on what pattern you press square and triangle in, you'll get different combos. So like if I start with square and then go to triangle and then go back to square, I get kind of a different effect, and you can go through and kill these guys. And you also now have the ability to slow down time when you cut. And so I can just hit this guy, slow down time, cut him, and then grab his little innards and explode them. So I'm going to go ahead and restart this one more time and just do this the normal way as if I was playing it. And kind of show off the different types of moves. So you have a lot of stuff in your repertoire, and you don't even have everything unlocked from the start, but you have a lot of really good base moves right from the start. So one of them is blocking. You can press forward and square to block an attack, and then you can sometimes get prompted to do special moves like this, where it does a parried animation and sends the person flying. And then you can just grab their stuff in the air. It's an incredibly stylish game. Also, you can do things like do a side tackle and send the guy into the air and cut him into tiny little pieces. Unfortunately, I didn't actually hit the target on that one. And you can, of course, just attack people regularly. As you attack, you gain the ability, you gain points so that you can refill your slashing and do it again. So you can see the FC fuel. That's your MCFC electrolytes. And if it's full, you can slow down time. If it's not, you can't. Later, you get further bars, and as long as you have the initial bar full, you can always slow down time for the whole length of the bar or for a portion of it. And then you have to recharge it up to that first bar to get it back. So here's the cutscene where they kind of go into the violence aspect of the game, and it's just to kind of put it in the background for the character. Part of it's done as I said to kind of not they don't take the issue head on, but they do mention it and they do recognize it. And the thing is, when you make games like this, when you're a game developer, you know it's fake, and you know it's for fun. It's like making a zombie movie. If you've ever seen Dusk Till Dawn, they must have had so much fun making that movie. Like, it looks really gruesome when body parts are flying around, but they're making all of these things that look like body parts, and they're just throwing them around the scene, and just putting a whole bunch of fake blood everywhere, and having a whole real good time. And that's what it's like when you're making a game. But at the same time, when you do a lot of testing, and when you make games that are really violent like this, it sometimes actually taxes you a little bit, and they kind of go into that in kind of a pseudo-realistic style in the game. The other thing that it's meant to do is to kind of sell Raiden's backstory as a child soldier. Raiden's generally a good guy, actually. He is not a real terrible person, but he does have this dark history, and he did have the nickname Jack the Ripper at some point, and so they use that as kind of an aspect to make him more powerful later, and kind of give him more of an edge. And I think it's done pretty well. It's one of those things where it helped the story that they set it up this way, but it's kind of just interesting to me that they actually even combated it at all. I would have just gone as a pure slasher and not even worried about the situation. So yeah, I did terrible in that fight, and that's fine. I'm more showing the stuff off. So now we can kind of re-explore the area, and actually, since I restarted, this even came back. But we have this bridge here. And actually, you can't even cut this stuff. They really don't intend you to be up here. This is kind of something that they expect to already be destroyed by the time you get up here. And it's to the extent that I actually thought that there was going to be hidden things up there, and there's not. But this is to further illustrate that that the blade can't cut the geometry here, and you won't fall. And you can also see that they're doing a raycast to make sure that you can't cut through geometry. There's a thing to cut underneath here, but the cuts weren't going through. So it does know if you're being blocked. And so again, if you cut it, it breaks. And in this case, they have the pillars as completely discrete objects. I'm curious if those line up 100%. No, they don't. It's not that lazy. But when you destroy them, as I said, they destroy down, and it's very simple how they set that up, and yet it creates a great deal more immersion into what you can cut, and it also allows for some gameplay opportunities later, because they'll have bridges where there's enemies on them, and you have to like bring them down by cutting the bridge down. Again, you can cut pretty much anything that looks cuttable. There are, of course, always exceptions. Anything that's level geometry you can't cut. Cars you can cut. This huge thing here you can cut, and just however you want. And let's actually talk a little bit about the animation system for the cutting. So we're in the modern age, and animation blending is the norm. Oh, I can't just do anything while this is going. So while this guy's talking, I'm going to go ahead and admire some of the environment here. So games have a lot of details in them, and they have a lot of textures in them, and there's a lot of art that goes into gamecraft. One of the things that actually goes into gamecraft is actual art. Like, you'll see here that they have little texture maps of paintings on the walls that just, sell the little kind of Victorian style of this building. Now, admittedly, games generally have a problem with scale, especially high-speed action games. You'll note that they don't care as much about geometry scale. Because if you know, I'm supposed to be a pretty big dude, and I can't even see that at eye level. This banister is this molding or siding here is really tall compared to what you typically expect for these things, and all the doors are gigantic. Like, that's a big freaking door. This is a very vertically exaggerated room. And part of it is just because you can jump so high in these games that you have to kind of make it ridiculous. And you'll see that in a lot of games. So what I was going to show you is when we slow down time, well, I'm not slowing it down because I don't have any to slow. You can do this kind of aiming, and he'll automatically kind of rotate through these different poses. And this is actually something that's really difficult for people to understand how to do at first, because they don't know the tools that are available to them in the modern world. So, in the old days, most games used animations to animations to animations, and if you had any blending between them, it was done manually. Like, if you had a combo, you would do the whole combo, And honestly, that's kind of what's already happening here, although they're doing a small amount of animation blending to just make it smooth no matter what rate you hit the buttons at. And animation blending, that's the primary use of it, is just smooth things out. But another good use of it is to use it for programmatic aiming mechanics. So a lot of shooters, you can aim up, down, left, and right. And that's exactly what's happening here with Raiden. When I'm pressing up, this is one of his animations. It's an idle animation with his sword raised fully. And as I move left and right, it's actually blending between his left and right versions of the animations, where he has so this is one of the animations, this is one of the animations, this is one of the animations, and this is one of the animations. And if you just blend between them with a certain weighting based on, and you can see my sword's going through my ankle there, they don't worry about it too much, but they basically weight between these 4 animations, and in that sense you get this really smooth capability to cut in any angle. And the same thing happens when you actually cut. The cut is actually one of 4 animations that are blended together. So this is the blend between the right cut and the left cut, and the bottom cut, and this is the blend between the right cut and the top cut. And it allows you to create this really flexible, smooth-looking system using animation blending, and it's something that people don't really think to use. So that's how they get that done. Additionally, let's talk about some effects. So we've got this blade blur effect, which is really cool. And the way that it's done is, it looks like it doesn't actually. I don't think this is a programmatic effect. And what I mean by that is, they have the thing spawning there, but it's actually just a half circle no matter what. And it doesn't follow the blade; it just happens to follow the blade's path. It's not like it's attached to the end of the blade. This isn't in Unity, you could do something with a trail render, and it would probably work. But this is actually more just we play one effect. It does the texture animation through, and that's it. It's just this semicircle / full circle effect. It also additionally has a little bit of a pixel shade effect. I think you can see that it does a blur that is based on the environment, and that's pretty common these days, and it makes it look real good, and it sells it as kind of something that you wouldn't see in the real world, but it's just so powerful it sells the slicing. So let's go on and get through a little bit more level. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the whole chapter today. I'm probably going to do just up till Blade Wolf. I'm not really sure how long I'm going to be spending getting to that point, so we'll see. Once I get there, we'll see if I do some more. I might take a break at that point. So here we have some stuff with paired animations. So paired animations are when you have to interact between 2 characters, and it's not a. I think that's generally the term for it. It's a jargon term. So different companies may call them different things, but that's usually what I've heard it called as paired. And the way it works is, at a certain point, you are interacting with the other player, with the other character, and you have to play their animations simultaneously. So I'm going to do a paired kill on here, where I jump down, and so I'm going to target him, do kind of this animation, and it gets right on his head, and then we're in this paired animation where he comes up, and I'm in an animation, he's in an animation, and I can cut him up, and you'll notice that in the cutting here, one of the really advanced things, and I don't really fully know how they did this, is their animations still play when you cut them. Like, if you cut an enemy in 2, both halves of him still animate until you cut him down to a certain size. And that's really cool that they got their slicing system not only to work with skinned meshes, but also to allow the meshes to animate independently, as if they were a whole model. And it's not rocket science. I mean, it's just but it is complex, and it is very cool that they managed to do that. So here's the first time we get to use our AR display. Actually, I could have probably used it earlier, but this allows you to kind of see the environment around, and see where the enemies are, and it's really kind of ridiculously overpowered. In the Metal Gear tradition, there's some stealth elements in this game, but it's light on the stealth, and you are a robot who has amazing vision. Of course, you're going to be very good at stealth and very good at picking out your enemies. So there's some guys down here. Can I actually zoom in? I don't think I can. So there's some guys down there that are looking at a dude, and actually, if you get close enough, they'll start playing some dialogue and eventually shoot him, and you can save him. And I don't know if there's a bonus for doing that, but you definitely can. I'm going to try and do it here. There's actually a lot of ways you can enter this area. One of the things I like about the Metal Gear series is they usually give you some options, especially in the stealth sequences, as to how you approach a situation. So I could go on the left side there, use that bridge. I could go on the right side here, use that bridge. Most of the bridges can actually be taken down, too, by slicing. Like those pillars there will take down those respective portions of the geometry. And there's 4 dudes here. There's those 2 dudes and those 2 dudes. And this guy has a rocket launcher, and one of the things that's tricky about keeping that guy alive is you have to kill the 2 guys around him without them killing him, and then this guy's going to pull out a rocket launcher if he sees you as well. So one of the ways is to go kind of stealthy through the top area, come back around, kill that guy, and then finish off with those 2. But I like to go for those 2 guys first and then just try and run away so that they don't fire at the civilian. Again, I'm kind of breaking this down from a gameplay perspective as a player, because gameplay is really important. Is just as important as other aspects such as the technical and artistic aspects. And so I just want to kind of do the whole hog on this series as to what's going on here. So here they started playing their sounds, and eventually they'll get them. So I'm going to just go ahead and end these guys. So cut him, and maybe I can get him in the same cut. No, I can't. Dangerously close. Oh, yeah. Okay, I failed. He died. I'm sorry. Yeah, I did that poorly. Usually, when I do that animation, the other guy gets into a position where I can actually hit him. So we got 1 guy left. I'm doing pretty poorly today. So, again, when you hit him the last time, the game slows down, and that gives you a signal that it's time to cut. So you can start cutting him before he blows up, although I didn't quite hit the marker there again. I'm not doing great. But again, this isn't about the gameplay. This is about it's about everything. So another little detail that I really like in this game, and it's little details like this that I love in games. So when you attack, you pull your sword out, and actually, if you notice, when I pull it out, there's almost no blending there. You'll see it almost disappear from the sheath immediately. Here's where I press the button, it's gone, it's already in my hand. Like, I didn't even pull it out of the sheath, it just teleported into my hand. And you won't notice that in the course of action, and you don't want to have a long animation pulling that out. But when you're done attacking, you have a run and idle with your sword out, and if you wait long enough, you'll actually put it back. Actually, does he do that or not? Maybe it's only when I do a run. It might only be when I do a run. Okay, so if I do a run at this point, you'll see him do an animation where he puts the sword away and he starts running, and now the sword's back on his back. It's really cool that they do that, and so he kind of has the sword at the ready when he's fighting, but he does an extra animation just to sell that it is a sheath and that he does use it, and that it serves a purpose for when he needs full mobility. And I like that detail. What other things do we got here? So jumping's pretty standard. It's just play an animation, move his Z height around. We've already kind of gone over the running thing, but it's entirely contextual. It's based on how high the areas are that you can run on, I'm pretty sure. So if there's like an area above that you can run on, and it's at a certain point, you'll go up against it and try to get up on top of it. I'm going to go ahead and, I guess, go on to the next sequence. So, oh wait, that's what I wanted to do. So, another thing that's in this game is you can upgrade your character. And this is kind of a hallmark of the series now, after Metal Gear Solid 4. Metal Gear Solid 4 introduced Drebin and the Drebin Shop that allowed you to kind of add new weapons and capabilities to Snake as you went along. Now, this is more like the classic Devil May Cry upgrade system, where you have things that you can purchase, and you get those points by doing well in the game. And some of the things you can purchase are new custom bodies, which this one was like DLC, but you still have to purchase it using points. This is the original cyber body as Raiden was in Metal Gear Solid 4. It looks a little different than it did in Metal Gear Solid 4, just because of different shader systems and different systems like that. And you can upgrade your weapons, so like I can change the strength and absorption energy. Strength allows me to increase the amount of damage I do. Absorption increases the amount of bar that I recharge when I hit enemies, and energy decreases the amount that energy dissipates when you slow down time. And additionally, you can increase your life. This just increases your life bar. You can increase your fuel cells. This increases your fuel bar so that you can do more slicing. And then finally, you can also upgrade skills. And these skills are really important. I'm planning on doing a no upgrade run at some point, but I actually wasn't able to beat one of the earlier bosses in the game, and so I'm going to have to really see if that's... I'm sure it's possible. It's really hard, though. The main reason it's hard is because you don't get defensive offense, which is a really important move that, honestly, I think should have been unlocked by default along with parrying, but it's not. So I'm going to unlock this one because I really need it. I'm going to get the aerial parry, and I'm going to go ahead and just get Sky High to spend the rest of my points at this point. Falling Lightning is the other really important one that I want to get, and so the next time I have 15,000 points, I'll go back into this menu. I guess I'm doing this kind of as a walkthrough now, too. But, I mean, these are all aspects of the game, and these are all things that you have to make, and so there's a model viewer, you can spin the character around in there. There's a lot of detail that goes into that. Oh, I guess I have to redo this sequence. So that's the other thing. This game checkpoints, when you go through that, it actually loads, and this is a safe way of, not having weird situations, but it does mean that sometimes you have to repeat your work if you do an upgrade. Should have gone to the next area first, so let's see if I do this a little bit better this time. There we go. So this time I got both of them in one fell swoop. And that guy's still around. This guy's shooting his RPG at me. This one's probably going to be an S rank this time. And one more RPG dude. Die! I love that. So again, he's playing his animations on both halves, which is just super cool. So I saved this guy this time. Yay! Hooray for video games where I can go back and fix the mistakes I made a time before.
Thank you. I will not forget this.
Alright, got a lot of points for that too, good. So, actually there's no S ranking on that area anyway, so here's our first actual combat encounter here. And this is the first time that we fight a gecko. Now, geckos are from Metal Gear Solid 4, and they're these robots that kind of are semi-biological, and they don't count as human opponents here. They count as just robots, but they do bleed. They kind of drool. They kind of poop a little. Like they have a lot of weird stuff going on with them, and they can kick you around real good. So I'm gonna deal with the little guys first. Now, is that guy charging up? Oh, no, he's not. So, now he's charging me. Hopefully I'll have a chance to block him as he gets through. So, he's going to charge me and I'm going to do a parry animation with him. Nope, I'm not. Okay. Just going to hit my head. So, there's some of the green drool slash poop. I don't know. It kind of looked more like poop in the Metal Gear Solid 4. These things kind of sound like cows, too. They also make a cicada sound as they approach. Part of that was because... It's actually a camouflage system for these things. It's to make them sound less threatening than they actually are, and all it really does is make people afraid of cows, I think. So, again, so this is, as I said, the first big guy that you get to fight, and they have a lot of different animations, and I'm going to show you some of the paired animations that they can do. Some of them are initiated by them, and some of them are initiated by me. So if I can get him to a certain distance, I can maybe make him charge. You may not want to do it for me. Yeah, he just wants to get up close. So actually I should have let him hit the ground there because he can go into the ground and get stuck, and that's one of the ways you can do a paired animation with him. So here we go. I'm gonna kill him off. Again, paired animation, really beautiful stuff, really cool detail, and you can just kind of go to town afterwards and kill him off. And it's cool stuff. Like, this game's over the top, and it knows it, and it does well with it just by how they set things up. So this is another stealth area, and you can go through without attacking. I'm probably going to actually just go through and attack things because it's more fun for me. I'm going to get this guy first because he's got a rocket launcher, and I don't want to deal with that. I like to do the air hit. So what's more stuff I can show in this area? So we're going to have another fight with these geckos, so hopefully I'll get them to do some more fanciness. So there's two geckos. I've got one here. So another thing you can do is if the enemies are aiming at you, where's one of the rocket launcher dudes? There's a rocket launcher dude. He's aiming at me, and you can actually cut... Oh, no. Well, you could if you were faster. You can cut their missiles in two and deflect them, which is... it's a lot of fun. It's kind of hard to do, but it's a lot of fun when you pull it off. So again, if you block it early, you just block, but if you do it fast enough, you'll actually do an immediate counterattack. A lot of enemies try to jump back to avoid it, like these guys definitely do. Okay, so I'm going to block him here, and this is one of the paired animations. Oh, come on. You got in the way of the other guy. So these guys can charge you. They can also pull out this little, like, manipulator arm. Oh, here we go. So he got his leg stuck, so now I can jump in, just kind of go to town. And these things bleed. As I said, they're biomechanical. And that actually didn't kill him. Interesting. I thought that was a death blow type thing. No, don't hold me! Ah! So you can see that there's a lot of different things that the enemies can do. They kind of wait to attack between each other. This doesn't happen in the hardest difficulty in the game. This is something that happens in this is normal difficulty, but in the harder difficulties, they actually don't wait. They actually just start attacking. Everyone just starts attacking at once. Usually they have one long-range person and one short-range person attacking on, like, normal difficulty here. So let's get rid of these guys so we don't have to worry about them. Ah! Oh, against the wall. So that, you actually saw, I was kicked and I did a wall animation there. This is another little detail they put. The other thing is there's a huge amount of particle effects. You can see when I'm moving around, there's these little sparks that follow me. They don't even really read that well, but it adds so much more to what's going on in the sequence here. And the thing is, there's a whole lot of detail. There's a lens flare up there. It's actually a pretty damn fine lens flare, actually. I hadn't really admired it before. And that's just to sell the sunlight there, and you get this nice hexagonal lens style effect. And there's, I don't think they're using color correction here. I could be wrong. That is pretty common these days, but maybe they are. They've got kind of ground fog going on in the background. There's a lot of detail that goes into this stuff, and it's detail work. And when you have a team of like 300 people working on a title, you can afford to do this stuff. When you're working on your own project, sometimes you can't get this amount of detail. But if you make a short project with a lot of detail, people will remember it more than a long project with no detail. And so experiment with the stuff. Play around with adding more to your game. Try to tell a story with your environments and with your characters, and you'll do a really great job. So cut him up. So let's see if I can get these guys to do a few more animations and fun stuff. Come on, I want one of you to charge me. Come on, charge me. Come on, you know you want to. You know you want to. There we go. It's charging me. So I'm going to block it. And this is a paired animation, so we start there. Now, anytime you do a paired animation, the way you make it so that it transitions nicely is you cut the camera. So if you notice, every time I've started one of these, it starts with a camera cut. I'm going to try and point that out the next time. And that's because all of a sudden you don't have to blend the animation. If you do a camera cut, you can move everyone into their positions, and the player won't even notice. If there's a slight discrepancy about the position, who cares? Sometimes they use it to even move enemies out. So like I did it here. He was not actually in that exact position when I did that animation. He moved out away from the wall so that we wouldn't intercept it as much. This is a way you can cover a lot of things, and if the player's playing and having fun, they're not going to notice these little changes in detail. So I'm going to show it again. So the camera's going to cut as soon as I do this. See it cut, and it played a little explosion effect. You got sparks coming off, and again camera cut when I start this animation, and another one during the animation too, actually, to just sell it. And it's okay to play around with the camera. It's okay to turn cameras on, move things into position. We'll do more camera work in Cooking with Unity in the future. It's something I've wanted to explore. I don't have a whole lot of practice with it myself, but I'm going to get some and kind of explore these cool cinematic aspects of games. So here we actually have an animation with the wall. Again, it does a camera cut. It automatically positioned me a little bit. You didn't see it because it does a camera cut. And you just press the little button. And again, it's the camera cuts are how you hide positioning and animation stuff when you need to get a character into position, and also so you don't want to annoy the player. There's some games where if you're near an interact spot and you hit interact, you'll actually walk to the position, blend into the position, and then hit interact. And that's another way of doing it. It's a lot of work though for very little effect as far as I'm concerned. I actually think that the hard cut's a little bit better, and also it means that you don't have to wait forever for things to happen. So here I've unlocked a VR mission. So this is part of the metagaming portion of this game. You have VR missions you can unlock, and these are kind of like challenge modes that use the VR styling. Now, something funny. the sun's over here now. It wasn't over there before, I don't think. They changed it just for this area. Like, if I was to go at this door, the sun would be around about this angle. And because they want this game to look really good, they've actually got the lens flare and sun coming in from this place to make it look like this really stark area. Now you'll notice that there is some lighting here. It's all baked in. It's not very particularly fancy. And honestly, you'd think that it would be a little bit brighter in here just from the diffuse, but they've decided to make it a dark room, and that's fine. And it doesn't have to be real to sell a title. And again, the sun's in a completely different place than it was before. Or is it? Maybe I'm just lying. Am I openly lying? Are they not cheating where I think they're cheating? Oh no, that actually was where the sun was. Okay, they just positioned the building properly. Okay, never mind. I'm a liar. You can see the whole area there. You can actually see through things too. Like you can see that I missed a pickup over there using my augmented, and you can't actually get back out of here, I don't think, unless you can like somehow sneak into this window somehow. I don't think you can. I don't think it lets you. So here's another place where you have kind of some options. This game is designed for speed, and if you're just doing a speed run, you almost never have to use staircases. You usually have places where you can just climb straight up, and it's a little bit faster than doing the same thing up the stairs. And you can see that was just a few moments faster, and so they do this for speedrun purposes, and it's kind of fun. Also, codec, there's a huge amount of content in this game. Most of it's voice and animation stuff, and you can like talk to any of the characters, just like standard Metal Gear stuff, and they'll have stuff to tell you. And there's a lot of cool information that they provide and backstory, and it's optional. It's one of these things where you don't have to explain everything, but if you feel the need to explain everything, let the player decide whether they want to experience that or not. And this is a way of doing that. You have all these additional codec conversations that are optional, along with ones that are actually required to, allow the story to progress. So here's where we're going to start our fight with Blade Wolf. I forget his robot name before he's known as Blade Wolf. I think it's LQ4I. I don't know. He'll say it in a second here. Anyway, this guy's a really cool character, and they actually do. This is spoiler central in this game. He actually becomes a good guy at some point, which is hilarious because you cut him into tiny little pieces, and the Doctor evidently repairs him. So evidently he's really good at his job. Now he does give him a whole new body, so he probably just had to pull a brain chip out or something. But so here they've tried to use cutting in a cutscene here, and they have the enemy doing it, which is kind of cool. And here we go. Here's his actual introduction, and he's kind of this robot AI. And this guy's used. There's a lot of transhumanism concepts in the storyline for this game. As I said, it's lighter fare as far as things go, but there is a lot to enjoy from a sci-fi perspective in this game. So LQ84I. And so this is an AI interface prototype. He is an AI that also has voice synthesis, and you ask him the big question. He claims that his intellect is far superior to yours, and it's probably true. And you, of course, just ask the meaning of life, one of the simplest, stupidest, most human questions here. And he says the meaning of life is I'm here to kill you. And you get kind of, what's interesting about this is the game is sympathetic towards AI. I really like this. I like that people are kind of understanding that if we had AI, we're going to have to kind of treat them as equals, if not more than that. And because of that, the thing is, we use computers as tools right now. We build them to serve our purposes. And there's a point where that's going to be an aspect of slavery, and that's basically what they're talking about here. He has the ability to make choices, but he can't make the choices because he will be killed, effectively. He will cease to exist. They will wipe his memory, all that he has gained, if he disobeys orders. And so he doesn't have free will. He is trapped in this situation. And I like that they explore subjects like this, and they explore it from a human perspective, too, with the soldiers later, as you'll see in later chapters. Blade Wolf has a lot of cool little attacks. You can kind of run around in a lot of boss fights and kind of get an idea of what's going on without having too much trouble getting hit. This is actually a really great way to learn patterns. The old school games, like a lot of times you'd learn patterns just by repeat trials or finding some way of safely traversing the area. And this is one of the ways, or you'd find a safe spot. Occasionally there's safe points even in modern games. I'll show you some of those in some of the later boss fights. This one, I don't think there's any real safe spot. He will tear you up if you get into a corner or try to get to a place where he can't touch you. So I'm going to actually... Oh, okay, so he did one of his paired animations. So it did a camera cut. Now this is a paired animation where he's kicking my butt. On extreme difficulty, you'd think that would kill a person. On extreme, it actually does. Extreme actually kind of feels like if the game were quote-unquote realistic, what it would be like. So I'm going to just start working this dog here. And so he actually runs back, and there's multiple stages of the boss fight, and he brings in reinforcements. And so it's funny, he has underlings that are humans, and one of the things that's interesting about this game is they give Blade Wolf so much character in this game that the guys that are cyborg, supposedly humans, are actually far stupider seeming than he is. And I know that's intentional. It's one of those fun things. Something else I didn't mention, this guy's gonna start shooting at me in a second here, I think. When you're running, you automatically block all the bullets, and it just plays an animation of him swinging the sword, and then has a collision geometry around him that causes the sparking effects. And it sells really well. It looks like you're actually doing something. Let me see if I can get this guy to shoot at me again. Come on, shoot. Oh, they can also hit their friends. Something else that I really like is on the harder difficulties, they do a hell of a lot more damage to you, and the way they did it is they actually increase the damage they do and not decrease the damage you can take. And the reason that's important is it means that when they shoot at their friends, they do a lot more damage to them too. So all of a sudden, the practice of having enemies hit each other is more effective here. So I'm going to go ahead and just do these guys. I'm going to try and do this as a single flowing combo. So you won't get hit if they do an attack while you're doing this this animation here, and you can take advantage of that and kind of plan what you're going to do next by doing that. So there we go, 18 hits, haven't broken my combo yet, and let's finish this guy with one of these. 21 hits, nice. Feel pretty happy with that one. Oh, there we go. Found a bug. He landed on this post there and kind of had trouble falling to the ground. You know, it happens. Bugs happen in games. That would be considered a C bug. It doesn't interrupt your play. It's noticeable, and it would be nice if they could get rid of them, but it's almost impossible to deal with all of the variables that you have to deal with these days, and fix these type of problems. So you'll see these bugs in games. A lot of people just ignore them. And sometimes the problem with bugs like that is occasionally you'll get situations where you want to minimize the bugs that are actually bad, where it blocks the player from continuing. So if he was able to get stuck in a way that his body didn't disappear and somehow block the critical path, that would be a bad thing. And so you want to make things as little dependency on collision as possible, especially if you have dynamic collision systems that could mess you up. So let's get this guy done. Alright, so something I want you to notice here is, once I kill this guy, listen to the music. The music has been dynamic the whole time in the game, but it has also dynamic lyric portions. And you'll see, as soon as I start fighting Blade Wolf, you'll hear the lyrics come in. So for this next sequence, it transitions the music. Here, listen. So now there's lyrics in the background music. So all of the music has been dynamic in the game, and they try to transition as seamlessly as possible. They have a lot of fast percussion in the game, and that helps mask the transitions. Sometimes you can actually notice it if you're really listening for it, but for the most part, it sounds really great when they do it, and it adds so much more to the game. And it's one of those details that a lot of people don't think to add to a game, or don't have time to add to a game. I mean, when you're dealing with all of the detail that goes into these games, music is not always the high priority. And it's really cool to see both dynamic and lyrics and music. I think this is actually one of the few games I've seen with dynamic music that had lyrical content. If there's other games, please let me know, because I love game history from the perspective of capability. And so I'm gonna finish him off here, and let's cut him up. Let's make the doctor have to work really hard to bring this guy back. Let's get the head real good there. Let's get everything, yeah. And so evidently, Hair Doctor can totally fix that. Whole new world here. You can cut something down into tiny little pieces. Also, they can keep talking to you well after they're in tiny little pieces. You actually freeze someone and then cut her into tiny, tiny little pieces, and she has a monologue for about, I don't know, 10 minutes after the fact. This is pretty common in these games. I guess it's really hard to kill cyborgs. So here it's more concept about freedom and oppression and AIs. And so how long has it been? Yeah, it's been long enough. I'm gonna call it here, and we'll continue the rest of this. Section at a later time. Thank you very much for watching, and you guys have a great night.